Hello, everybody. Welcome to Digital of Business and Business of Digital. Today, we have Raj Goodman Anand. He is going to talk about how does copywriting help company grow. Raj is founder of Goodman Lantern, and has a native team of English copywriters or content writers, and then their business helps people grow and scale. Hi, Raj. How are you?
I'm good, Sahil. Good to be on. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Raj, for joining us today. I wanted to brief people a lot more about you, but I think you have a very interesting career line. Most of the people around know, so our users or people who are listening are also engineers by background. So we have one more engineer on the podcast today who turned into marketing. And Raj, if you can brief us about how your journey was.
Yeah, absolutely. So I began, with engineering, computer science, and system engineering. Got into AI because I love video games. I want to build my own bots. Back then, AI was not about machine learning; it was more about other stuff and more theoretical than practical. I did neural networks, for example, quite a bit. Then I met somebody at university in the UK who was from the US and doing a gap year or a sort of a year abroad. And she mentioned about MySpace being the big thing in the US. So I built a MySpace clone within like a couple of months, but didn't know how to sell, how to market. And I kind of got into the idea of learning about marketing, and I just love marketing. And that was 15, 16 years back. And ever since I've been in marketing, I've built 3 companies so far, all within the space of using digital marketing. I've worked for corporations. I've helped companies go from 7.5 million to 45 million euros of revenue. And it's all based on telling good stories and digital marketing. I believe this is the thing which makes companies different, especially in B2B.
Sure. I think telling good stories is something which is coming into trend now. But do you believe that telling good stories was something which was there because you have seen the spectrum of online? So, with somebody who has been in the industry for last 10, 15 years now. So, was telling good stories at the core from the beginning, or now it is coming to fashion because of the COVID and people are talking a lot about empathy and those kind of things nowadays? So do you believe that it was there, but only few players were doing, or what was the scene there?
So, Sahel, telling good stories has been there for donkeys of years. I'm talking as far as history can remember. We've had kings and princes and prince and noblemen and peasants, all of them telling stories. I mean, famously, we had Julius Caesar, for example. We have
Yeah.
Napoleon, who should write, press releases to the gazettes in France and beyond to kind of you know march and actually get together people and rally them together to kind of fight battles for him, or collect money for him, or just get behind him to kind of do more wars, for example. So storytelling has been there for donkeys of years. It'll continue to happen for many years to come, and it's just that mediums have changed. Obviously, now we have moved from sort of like very offline to sort of semi sort of offline to sort of radio, television, and then it's now come to online. But again, the the nuts and bolts of storytelling is always going to be there, and has been there, and will be here for us to use and progress with.
Great. So one thing which somebody said to me earlier was when in my career that people die, stories don't. So I go by that thing because something which is a story is always, if it is a good story, it will always be shared. We are still seeing the adaptation of Julius Caesar, as you said, that we are still seeing those adaptation coming in place. And people are making those movies or plays day in and day out, and there are a lot of things around. So coming to the topic that we are going to talk about today. So first thing, and what a lot of people have doubt about, one is what is copywriting, and other is copywriting equal to content writing? If you can share those insights.
So I think first, before we jump into different between the different terminologies, I think that it's kind of to clarify, copywriting is a sort of a part of content writing, and I'll explain why that's the case. So content creation is more than just writing words. It could be content for example, videos, could be podcasts, could be blogs, social media content, could be literally anything which which might require a consumption in one form or the other. copywriting is basically a form which is looking at the actual copy, which is the actual text which goes within these different mediums, and it needs somebody who understands the nitty-gritty of how to create one, how to make it consumable, how to actually make it enticing for people to read more or consume more of it. And I think that's where the science comes in as well. You really need to understand the mindset of the person and how does that content work in the space that the user is and what they need from it.
Understood. So mainly what happens is people have a partial knowledge, or whenever
Mm.
somebody is trying to get a service, so they confuse between things, and then they just want a blog, and then they are looking for a copywriter in that way, or something of that sort, and that is what happens a lot. So is copywriting equal to advertisement or advertising? Is that the case, or it is different?
So ads also require copywriting as well. You need someone to write the copy for the ads, for example. In most cases, in some
Yeah.
cases, it might not require that much of copy within it, but most ads will have copy in multiple forms. It'll be the copy for the ads itself, but also there'll be landing pages which you have to build where people arrive and you click on the ads itself. And I think again, understanding the medium, understanding what works in different platforms, for example, is really important as well. Copywriting goes beyond just looking at writing words which sell. It also requires the medium and the knowledge about the platforms you're writing for as well, and more importantly, the company, their story, their values, their mission, their vision, and that's the most important part because if that's not understood very well, then how do you convey that to the end consumer?
Yeah. So in copies or while writing copy, is it necessary for people to have experience in the first place, or new people who are into content and they can also do this role? So do you think experienced person is required to do these things, or somebody with training, a bare minimum training, can also justify their role? Is it possible?
I think when it comes to any service you provide ever, I think the answer is the same. You have to hone in the skills. You need to really master the art of
Yeah.
making a concise, precise bit of work which you do. That's what sells at the end is that you sell a feeling, and that takes training, it takes experience. So I think the answer is pretty
Pretty simple.
trivial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while we as you said, you are selling something and there are a lot of sales copy which are written,
Mhm.
and people, most of the founders in the company write those sales copy because they are the people who understand the most about the product. And at the end, it's a tussle between the copywriter or the content writer in the company and the founders most of the time whenever they are trying to do. And that happens a lot in SaaS companies, because the feel of the product is different, and then somebody is trying to do those things. So have you also faced the same thing while doing services for people, or it's something, it's not a normal scenario?
So as I mentioned earlier, to write copy, teams need to understand the company's core values, mission, vision, tone of voice, and that's the first step to really writing good copy or to do anything is to do the research we have to kind of get into. So we spend a lot of time on our dime to help the
Yeah.
customer really understand their voice, their values. Sometimes customers perceive them to do something else, and they're very different. So we really make sure that we understand what the company's actually after, do competitor analysis, do opportunity analysis within the market. That's super important for us to kind of really get that right. Um, Without that, we cannot write. It cannot be authentic, for example. And that's been so it's always a bit challenging initially, but putting in doing the homework, for example, is super important to kind of get this going in the right direction.
So it comes down to the homework, as you said. So somebody who is starting the career, suppose in content writing, or is want to pursue this thing. So what could be the perfect trajectory according to you? Because you have been in this business for long now, and for Goodman Lantern has been there for 6 years now, and you have, I think, seen a lot of content writers or copywriters around, and then you have been working with them on their skills and those kind of things. So one thing is the industry relevant enough, which people see that it is growing day by day? uh, so how is the future? What is the kind of industry, and how can somebody get into this?
So I mean, there's actually multiple things there. I mean, first thing
Yeah,
I've noticed is that it actually helps to have native English content writers, because they can capture the cultural nuances more than people who are from English second language, for example, writers.
yeah,
Um, that's really important. At least the majority of our customers, they prefer native English content writers. So that's the starting point. And we look for people who love to tell stories, understand concepts, and explain them into simple words. And that's really important, because there are a lot of companies you work with who are technically really advanced. They really understand, they have a good understanding of the knowledge of about technology, for example. We need to break it down into simpler words, and that requires an expert who can break it down into bits which can consumed by the end consumer, because not all the time you will have a super tech savvy buyer. You'll have
yeah.
CFOs, CEOs who don't understand technology, and but they still work for a tech company, for instance, and that's very normal, and that should be the kind of norm for us to understand that. So it's all about that. Also understanding about, like, most of our work at the moment is about pull marketing or inbound stuff. So
True.
having a good concept of inbound marketing and what that actually looks like. Um, how to stay relevant. How do you make the content relevant? How do you actually bring in today's you know challenges or opportunities within the content you write, and how do you build trust? All these things are important when you do a search for our ideal content writer, and when you promote our content writers, internally we're giving them training. These are the points we can look at and train them on.
Got it. So most of the times, whenever I see people around, I think one thing which you said was very correct, that native English speaking people are required in those things, because that happens with us also, because we have English as a second language as a country. I belong to India, and we most of the times don't think in English. We think in other language, and when then we convert it to English, and those are the things where a lot of people face problems in, because while they are trying to get into other people's shoes, but they are themselves not comfortable enough to understand what the pain point is. So which I
Sure.
think you rightly mentioned, that native English speakers are required in a way to connect. That is number one. Other thing, which is a problem sometimes, which I see in the industry, is do you think people forget that they are writing for a layman in that way, or they have to write it in a layman language? Is that the case that you have seen in the industry while they are writing? Because glorifying things or writing it in a way using jargons is the trend now. So do you see that change happening anywhere?
um, well, I think sometimes what happens is that founders get so carried away by what they build that they forget that the end buyer has to be first educated. There's actually a funnel which we have to use for marketing, which is, you first thing is you bring in people, top of the funnel. You then educate the customer about your
Yes.
product or service, and then you convert them to the bottom of the funnel. So there's top, middle, and bottom. People kind of jump that funnel and go right to the bottom conversion when there's no education happening. And that, I don't blame the founders for it. This is a natural instinct, for instance. But you know, famously, people who were selling VPN, didn't educate the customers of VPN. What the benefits of it? It's not about the features; it's about the benefits which are there for the end consumer, and that's super important. I think people forget that, and that leads to less conversions, less sales. And at the end of the day, if you get that right, what you want really content to do is to help you sell better and grow faster.
Very true. So we currently are building Linkjoy, which is again helping Instagram guys to just push content, or just push people from their single page to another pages and those kind of things. And that is where the question of value comes. As founders, most of the time you are so obsessed with the product that you start selling the product rather than the values. It is I think the correct way that you have said, and we always forget. So in the IDA model which is there, people don't try to get into the awareness or interest part. They are into desire and the action part a lot. Another question which I have around content is, mainly a lot of people while reading content connect to the thing, but there's a lot of drop rate in that. So somebody who's reading the blog is not coming back to your blog and those kind of things. So inbound, what would be your suggestion for agencies? So is inbound marketing, which is a long term effort, a good thing for agencies, and how should they divide their time between doing paid ads, which directly gives them result, versus the inbound marketing or the efforts in content? So how would you, or how do you guide your customers in that way?
Well, I find that inbound leads convert typically about 12 times better than, sort of outbound leads. Just in general, this is general across the board, as
Yes,
it were.
true.
Um, Website conversion rates is nearly 6 times higher for content marketing adopters versus the ones who don't. So, I mean, there are some really good trends out there. Yes, content is a long term game. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it takes time. But if it was easy and it was quick, then it would be really easy to kind of come in the market, make a big splash, and just kind of get out of it. It's always a long term game when it comes to building a brand, building a company, building an opportunity, building making a revolution happen. It takes time. Rome wasn't built overnight. It takes time to kind of build something properly. And I think also when it comes to inbound content based marketing, it is a gift that keeps giving. Once you invest in it, for many, many years to come, you'll get rewards from it. Whereas in advertisements, once the ads are switched off, that's when the traffic drops, and so does the
True.
conversion as well. So there's actually a fundamental difference between advertising, which is about telling people about your product, and actually content or inbound showing you what the company can do for you. So there's a big difference there, and I think yes, do a marketing mix to advertising and content, but don't forget content, because that's a very important part of growth for agency, for instance.
So I think one thing which struck with me while you were saying this is Rome was not built in a day, and so people in content sometimes are. We want this thing to go viral. Whenever they have written one blog, two blog, and then they are like, "I need 1,000 people visiting this next day." So that is a difficult ask for a marketer to explain them why it will take time. Other thing is, while building audience, it is difficult to build audience. It is easy to get 500 views on your Instagram reel rather than getting 500 views on your blog. That is true. But do you think the trend is, so people are understanding that the platform that they are on is not what they own? Their website, their email list is what they own. So are you seeing those shift anywhere? Because likewise in India, they banned TikTok, and suddenly the next day all the efforts which were made by a lot of brands on that platform, or by a lot of creators on that platform, just vanished, and they do not have an audience built on any other platform. So those kind of things where people don't own, Facebook is decreasing the organic reach day by day. It is around 1% now, or less than 1%. I have stopped checking that now. Instagram is slowly and gradually moving in the same direction. LinkedIn currently is giving you organic reach, but then it will also move into, because they, at the end of the day, they are doing business and they want to earn money.
Mhm.
So do you think the importance of owning your own media is increasing, or the trend is same?
Well, I mean, it's a really hard one to answer, because at the end of the day, from companies which build services only, we all have become publishers. Like in one form or the other, we all become publishers. We all have to publish content to kind of get audiences engaged, educated, and converted in one form or the other.
Very true.
Yes, it really helps to have your own content on your own platform, but sometimes you can leverage the third party platforms like the Instagrams, the TikToks,
Yeah.
the LinkedIn to kind of get traffic in your direction. And without a shadow of doubt, email is the holy grail, as it were, of marketing. It is the one which helps you convert when time is right, for example, and building that list is really important. And that's what most clients are doing and should be doing, for example. But doesn't mean that we should stop our efforts on third party platforms like TikTok or Instagram. obviously if it's still legal, obviously in TikTok, obviously it's not legal at the moment in India to kind of
Yeah.
use TikTok as you could before. I don't know, the rules changed again, but from when I remember, there was a ban on TikTok.
True.
So my thinking really is that it comes down to investment and diversification. So not putting all the eggs in one basket. Actually spreading the joy a little bit, the love a little bit, and actually having your website as a holy grail with the email marketing, building email lists, but also having other platforms to amplify that the message and to get people in through those points as well.
So, as the topic is, how can copywriting increase your company or growth of your company? So, what would be the channels that you would like people to understand in the beginning? So, suppose we take for a SaaS company, and then we will slowly move to agency and those kind of things. So, which are the channels would you suggest that these are the channels as a copywriting activity, or these are the activities that as a company that you should do? So, would which would be those?
I think, Sahil, I don't like to give generic answers when it comes to giving media, because I think every customer is different.
True.
Every client is different. Every company is different. Even if they're SaaS companies, two SaaS companies, they're very different audiences. There's SaaS companies who are doing, $1 million per customer. The
Yeah.
others who are doing maybe, $5 per customer. And so the ARPU is different. Then how can you target the same kind of, same strategy for different companies?
Yeah.
That's one. Number two is it's about resonating with your customers. It's about making sure that you are able to connect with them, because eventually, when it comes to buying decision, people first emotionally link to the company they want to buy from, and then rationalize it using some very clever mathematics, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of connection is really important. And for the starting point for that really is to find where customers hang out. So if your customers really are, LinkedIn kind of customers, and you'll find them on LinkedIn, for example. If you find people who are hanging out on different platforms, and you do that, for instance, if your client is looking on Google as the first thing, then you do Google. If they're looking for Bing, they look at Bing. So it kind of comes down to kind of the market research. We understand where clients hang out, because there's no possibility of having this one magic pill which will fit all scenarios. It can solve all the pains and pain points. You got to customize a solution based on your clientele and your market you're targeting.
I think just extending your answer to people who are listening, it is that a lot of people go by what they are reading in different blogs, and something which worked for Dropbox in 2013 is not going to work today, and something which worked for Airbnb when they used to use Craigslist or something of that sort is not going to work today. And those growth hacking things, people always see that somebody has got so in their own competition also in SaaS companies that happens a lot. A few SaaS companies have grown on the basis of content, and then the same thing won't happen with other company because they are trying to fight them in the same industry, in the same domain that they are experts in. So picking your battles is, I think, the right way. What Raj has said, that if somebody is on Google, go try to do things there. uh, Very correct on those parts. When we see our competitors, Raj, and while we are making our strategies, so should somebody in a way play on the strengths of individual level? Because let's be honest, in the beginning, founders and the agency owners are the lone people who are riding the whole thing. So what can be something which they can start with in a way, or what kind of parameters should they look into? While you said that to find somebody who, if your audience is on Google, if your audience is on Facebook, if your audience is on LinkedIn. So as an agency, suppose we take an example of a digital marketing agency, and they are trying to build content. So they are trying to build blogs, they are trying to do a short videos in reels or TikToks about 5 ways or 5 alternatives of Canva, and those kind of small things where they are trying to build genuine information and try to give it to people. In that case, what kind of approach should a founder have? A long term one where he's just doing it for 4 months, 5 months, and then try to bring in output, or what should be the key KPIs for them?
So, I mean, without a shadow of doubt, like long-term strategy is the only way forward. I mean, there's short-term strategies. In general, I personally, I would never do short-term strategy. I don't do short-term strategies with like teams, customers. All I do is long-term, with a long commitment to something which you believe in is really important to make a difference. Otherwise, it just you don't want to you don't want to be um, a sort of a sort of a short-term player who is just looking for sort of opportunities and then run away when things are tricky or difficult. I think
True.
commitment to a long term is super important. Um, I think also it comes down to for agencies is to leverage the personal brand of the founder. Just to kind of give you a simple example, look at LinkedIn. You have LinkedIn profiles and you have LinkedIn companies. You put the
Yeah.
same content on LinkedIn profile and put on LinkedIn companies.
Companies.
You will typically get a much higher interaction rate on LinkedIn profiles simply because people connect with people better. It's not B2B, it's not B2C, it's about P2P, person to person. Really about connecting with people and resonating with them. Yes, it's true that sometimes companies don't want to bring in individuals into their setting strategy, and then that's absolutely fine. But I've noticed from several examples that founders who are engaged and are happy to put their name to the actual brand and connect with people at a personal level convert much better. This is why I said Gordon, Neil Patel, all these guys are
Yeah.
doing really well because they really resonate with other people and people see them as individuals, not just a marketing brand, a logo. They see them as individuals and people.
True. And for SaaS founders, I think this is working well, and personal brands are day by day increasing. If you see Gary Vee and Vayner Media, so I think Gary Vee is bringing them more money in a way as individuals. The richest person in the world currently is a personal brand. Elon Musk is also doing the same thing. So he pushes something on Twitter, and then the stocks go here and there. So personal branding is something I think people need to understand more nowadays. Uh, so in copy, as we see the individual part, let's talk about those or explore those. So have you seen any or which are your favorite individuals who are making those things in the companies or trying getting good sales out of their individual brands? Which are the ones that you feel are doing it correctly for audience to understand?
Well, I mean, you already mentioned Elon Musk, you mentioned Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at all the major companies who recognize them and we kind of go with, I mean, Google founders have been doing that. For example, Uber founders, for example, Uber founder, I must say, in particular. I mean, all these have individuals who shine with their personalities. Some of the personalities are maybe not the most likable personalities. Maybe they are a bit contrarian to the approach of running companies, but they still have their views, their thoughts, and they are not shy to talk about it. I think that what makes them individuals. That's what makes them unique. And it's much easier to differentiate a company based on the founder than it is based on marketing messages which are very generic, for example. So we like
Right.
to kind of bring in founders and their thoughts into the actual mix because it does really help companies to sell better and grow faster.
Okay. And Okay, so platforms we have already discussed. So I was just coming next to which platforms are there because that's a generic question again. Uh, Coming to a specific part of what we are currently discussing is copy and content. So there are platforms like Reddit, there are platforms like LinkedIn, where long form is going well. Quora was there. Uh, how do you see the trajectory of all these three platforms? Because Quora at a time was very much in the news, and nowadays it is again just used as a backlink tool by most of the people. So any other platforms which you feel are there which are upcoming, like Clubhouse recently came up, and then it is pure audio, but it's coming up. So for content, in a way, uh, written content, do you feel these are few players in market, but then some of them are coming up, or which are good platforms?
I mean, Sahil, I would say again that more than the platforms to focus on the platform itself, it's important to focus on the strategy. Because I think
Okay.
these platforms come and go. You'll have Quora coming in and going. There'll be Redis
Yeah.
coming in and going. For example, you have your Yahoo question and answers, for example, in the
True.
past, things shut down, things start up. It's not important to kind of focus on the platform and have platform related strategies. The strategy should be independent of the platforms. It should be about the core aim of the business. What is that they're trying to create? What pain points are they trying to solve? And then figuring out where the clients hang out at the moment, and then investing in that. Sometimes you can invest in things which don't take off. I mean, luckily some people invest in Instagram, and then Instagram took off, and then so
Yeah.
they got the value of it. But there are other people who don't take off. You know, there's been things which are built by Twitter, for example. I think it was Telescope, which didn't take off, for
Yes.
example, and you would have invested money and time into it, and it just didn't happen. So focusing on a platform or platform centric strategy is not the ideal way of looking at it. I will look more at the overall strategy, and then figure out which platforms resonate with you at that time. And always try to diversify is what I'm trying to say as well. It's like, don't just focus on one platform. Have a couple of platforms which you believe in, which might take off or are growing and would be helpful for your customers currently and in the future.
Great. So that's a golden tip again for people. Try to work on a strategy rather than the platform, because most of the people around choose a platform and then create a strategy for the platform. And that's, I think, most of us do. So this is a key learning for me also, in a way, that which can be implemented. So as we are coming to the end of our podcast, Raj, and usually we ask two questions to all the people who join us here. Uh, so number one is, how do you keep up with the information which is so many things are flowing? So suppose you are in content space, and SEO is something which your team would be very much updated with. So Google every December comes up with a new algorithm, and then everything is just here and there, and the things change. So how do you keep updated, or what are the things that you follow or read or maybe listen to? uh, so how do you keep yourself updated in this industry?
Well, I think a couple of things here. First of all, as a founder, I think it's about investing in bringing in the right team members, because team
Okay.
members, when they you bring team members in who are specialists in the area they are in, and the litmus test really for a founder is that if your team members are smarter than you are in the field you brought them in, then you have done a good job. If you're the smartest person in the room, then there's actually a small problem. So that's my litmus test for all of my teams, for example. They're all smarter than I am. So that makes my life much easier. Because when they come in, they bring in the knowledge. They
Yeah.
of course, learn the space they are in, and they tell us what to do, and what how can we improve as founders, and the company grows in that way as well. That's one thing. Number two is, I like to read and discover stuff on a crazy level. I mean, I spend at least 4 to 5 hours per day trying to figure out new stuff. Either if I'm in the gym, I've got my podcast on, for example. I've got ebooks which I'm listening to, for example. So I mean, I believe in investing in
Learning.
ourselves, and learning is a big part of it. And not feeling shy to invest in education beyond just books and blogs and podcasts. Actually investing in organizations which can help you teach stuff, signing up for courses, for example. All these things are very important for all of us, not only founders.
Great. So one comes to this thing, which is your learning part, and the next part is motivation. Because as a founder, a lot of time it happens that you just go through it. And as I said, yesterday or day before yesterday, there was a clubhouse by Elon Musk, and he said, if you need motivations, don't do a startup. But then also there are downfalls. So suppose you also said that your second startup didn't turn out well, and that is a life journey. So how do you keep yourself motivated and the team also motivated? Suppose COVID happened, and then few of your clients would have also left. And what is the kind of thing which keeps the team and you going?
Many a times, I've noticed that motivation comes as a team. We need to build a team where we support each other, and we actually are in that kind of mindset of helping and improving. That's like one of our core values, for example, is improvement, which is to help our teams, help ourselves to improve and be the best version of ourselves. So that's really important part what good Milanta is all about. It's about helping each other, helping our peers, our teams, and having the integrity to kind of help our clients, for example, as well.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Second thing is also that when it comes to motivation, as a founder, you can have, it's like a bit like the British weather. You can have a rainy day, sunny day, windy, dry day, all in the same day, and you can have a crap day, a brilliant day, a average day on the same day as well. You can have a
Yeah.
hour which could be exactly the same, for example. And you need the support of a team. And I think the way you can do that, for example, is to be transparent with your teams. Be absolutely open with your teams, for example, about things. Um, that's super important. Number two is to make sure that the upsides and downsides are also shared as well. So, for example, we have a policy of sharing our revenue with our the managers, for example. All of managers get a bonus based on the company revenues, so that
Understood.
the the growth which they have made possible for the company, they are a partner in that.
True. So that keeps them also motivated, and they are also in line with whatever is happening.
Yes.
Great. So thanks a lot, Raj, for doing this. It was a great time having you here. And hopefully, everybody around who has listened would have also learned a lot of things. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.